Welcome once again to Gisborne Christian Fellowship, and thanks for joining us. Today we're going to look at a section of the Bible that speaks about giving and the joy of giving. But as we see in this passage, giving sometimes comes with criticism from others. I've been working in a small way with children in distress, a charity who, as well as shipping aid to the poor in Romania, they also organise a thing called Love in a Box. The appeal comes just before Christmas to provide presents for youngsters and aged people and the folk in between who haven't got anything. It's a way of showing God's love to the people who would normally have no presents at all. It's not a sales pitch for children in distress, by the way. This passage that we're going to examine is about how a woman, and we know little about her really, lavished quite an expensive gift on Jesus simply because she wanted to. But because of this woman's gift, she faced criticism. Strangely enough, again in Romania, when the plight of the many orphaned and disabled children first came to light a number of years ago, many of the charities who were taking aid into Romania were criticised by the Romanian authorities. This was shortly after the fall of communism, and they were still reeling from the powers of a dictator. So understandably, Romania was ashamed that they couldn't provide for their own people. And strangely enough, they retaliated with criticism and sometimes rejection, although they always let the aid come in. Strange reaction, you might think. But still the aid workers and the lorries got there. Help was on its way. You see, no matter what the pressures people are under, the joy of giving for both the recipient and the giver is enormous and outweighs all the criticisms. The reading is from the book of Matthew, chapter 26. While Jesus was in Bethany, in the home of Simon the leper, a woman came to him with an alabaster jar of very expensive perfume, which she poured on his head as he was reclining at the table. When the disciples saw this, they were indignant. "Why this waste?" they said. "This perfume could have been sold at a high price and the money given to the poor." Aware of what was being said, Jesus said to them, "Why are you bothering this woman? She has done a beautiful thing to me. Truly I tell you, whenever this gospel is preached throughout the world, what she has done will also be told in memory of her." Jesus appreciated that. The woman was pleased because she could give something. Jesus was pleased with her present. After all, this is probably the only time Jesus had been spoiled. His role had always been to give, feeding many people, healing the sick, offering advice, giving guidance and understanding. In this account, he is the recipient. But what of the critics? The reasoning behind their outburst was admirable. There was and still is a huge amount of poor people in this world. But on the other hand, who were they to say what someone should do with their property? In this case, the perfume. One biblical estimate puts the perfume to be worth 300 silver coins. One silver coin was a workman's daily wage, so it was quite a sum. It was quite an expensive perfume, but that didn't matter. It didn't matter what it was. The critics in this passage appear to be the people in the house, the followers of Jesus, the people who had lived with him for 3 years. But there were some red faces after their outburst and Jesus' subsequent rebuke. A few years later, Paul, who was also a follower of Jesus, was to quote Jesus as he spoke to in one of the house churches that had sprung up in many places. He said in Acts 20 verse 33 to 35, "I have not wished for anyone's silver or gold or clothing. You yourselves know that these hands of mine have supplied my own needs and the needs of my companions." This could be Jesus speaking here. It's Paul, but it could be Jesus, because Jesus had never borrowed or asked for anything to anyone. He goes on, "In everything I did, I showed you that by this kind of hard work we must help the weak, remembering the words the Lord Jesus himself said, 'It is more blessed to give than to receive.'" It is more blessed to give than to receive. That's true. That is very true. Jesus gave us everything. He died on a cross to give us a way to speak to his Father, our God in heaven, directly. We didn't need intermediaries anymore. We could speak to our God directly. And he did this because he loves us. He gives and we receive, and he asks for nothing in return apart from our love, loyalty and obedience to him. Would you like to have a relationship with a father and his son who constantly shower you with love? Would you like to have a relationship with a God who doesn't criticise you and accepts you just as the way you are? Would you like to have a relationship with a God who constantly gives for free and asks nothing in return? That's a God and a half, that for me. And that is our God. I will leave you with a biblical passage that never fails to make me feel better, no matter what is happening around me. And it's a promise that God has made to us all. And God never breaks his promises. I've used this many times in many talks, but I don't apologise for that, because it still has the same strength now as it had before. You see, God promises, and these are his own words: "I will never leave you or forsake you." You see, once you have a relationship with our God, he will be there for you for the long haul. He will be there with you forever. You see, our God is our protector, our defender and our guide, but he's also our friend. He has a plan for each one of us. So why don't you ask our God into your life today and find out the plans he has for you? Our God will change your life forever, for the better, if only you follow him. I hope you find this message encouraging. I pray God's blessings are with you today and forever. And for that I'll say goodbye and thanks for listening. God bless you.